Welcome back to the Bold Podcast. I'm Todd Birch, your guide on this exciting journey of personal growth and leadership, where my guests and I will share personal stories from our transformational journeys of how small changes can lead to massive results. You'll discover tips on overcoming obstacles, setting and achieving goals, building lasting habits, living a happy, healthy, and positive life, and so much more. If you're ready to cultivate a growth mindset and become the best version of yourself, then let's ignite your growth today. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to introduce Tracy Jepson, a powerhouse in small business consulting and strategic growth. With over 20 years of experience, Tracy is an expert in finance and a passionate advocate for transforming businesses into profit-driven ventures. As a CEO of Kantex Financial and a certified Profit First Master, she helps entrepreneurs gain financial clarity and success. Tracy's personal journey of growth, including embracing sobriety, has shaped her into a resilient, goal-oriented leader, making her a truly inspirational guest. Listeners, get ready for a great episode. Tracy, welcome to the Bold Podcast.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for having me.
It's so good to see you again. Gosh, it's been so... You had me on your show, one of your
I
podcasts. I see
I
you have a new one
did.
now.
I have a new one now where I'm just kind of going solo on it. It's kind of being
Okay.
revamped. So that's kind of like I said, a solo podcast venture, but it's been a couple years. We had a mutual friend introduce us and
Yeah.
you were on our Small Business Big Deal podcast, which is still a fantastic episode too. So maybe we can link that one back so people can listen to kind of how your story has transitioned as well, because I remember it being a really, really great episode for
Oh,
listeners. So
thanks. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. And it's been exciting to watch you and your transformation, which we're going to dig into today. So coming
yeah,
back,
a lot has happened in those few years since we
right?
last connected
Yeah,
like
same
this.
here on both ends. I think we've both
Yes,
been through a big transformation, which is so exciting.
it is. It is. Let's dig
Awesome.
in.
Let's dig in. All right. Well, looking at your bio, your LinkedIn, you're definitely a serial entrepreneur. You definitely have a passion for small businesses, which is awesome. I love that. So
Mhm.
let's talk about your main business, which I believe your main business is the Kantex Financial. Tell us a little bit about the mission, the story behind that, why you started it, and what
Yeah,
types of services you provide.
absolutely. So Kantex Financial kind of started out in a very different place. It started as a side hustle when my husband and I were going through Dave Ramsey, getting out of debt,
Mm,
and needed kind of an extra side gig in order to make some of that debt go away a lot quicker. And what turned from, hey, let's get some extra cash and get this debt gone, turned into a full-time job. And then the job turned into an actual business. And I like to think that that transitions, once you start hiring a team and start being intentional about what you're doing, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs can actually create a job for themselves versus actually creating a company. And there's a huge difference, and not that one is better than the other for everyone, but there's a difference in that. So where I started out doing bookkeeping for firms all across the country. So I always said I was doing Zoom before it was cool. Everything always started out kind of at a distance. And when I was working with small business owners, it wasn't, hey, let's get my P&L looking good, or can you explain my balance sheet, to me. It was, how do I pay myself more? How do I pay for my kids to go to college? How do I pay for dance class? My daughter wants to take, extra specialties and I just don't know where it's going to come from. And it was started out as those connections between personal finances and business that really led me to kind of where things are today in the business, where it's way beyond bookkeeping. It really is strategic conversations with business owners. So that way they're able to connect their personal lives and their personal finances to the business, and that the business is actually supporting what they want to do in life and not just a job.
yeah, wow, I love that. Couple things to unpack there that I want to talk about: work-life integration. And that's
Mhm.
really what it's all about. Call it whatever, work-life balance, work-life integration. But I love that you're intentional about that. I also want to go back to one of the first things you said, because that concept of, are you creating an expensive job for yourself, or are you creating a business? It
Yeah.
wasn't till, I think it was right before the pandemic, for me, I saw a post on Facebook, I think it was, from Tony Robbins, and he said that exact statement. And I was like, dude, man, I don't I don't believe you. That did not resonate with me at the time. And I struggled with it, but I took a screenshot of it for whatever reason. And I came back to it 6 months later. I'm like, holy crap, like you were spot on. Like this is what I've done is I've created this expensive job. Although I had employees, I really wasn't thinking about not necessarily an exit plan, but just creating these processes and, these SOPs,
Mhm.
creating a business that could run without me, that wasn't all about me. So I can totally relate to a lot of what you just said.
Yeah, it's really hard to see yourself not having a business. Like you're a business owner, right? You're an entrepreneur, you've got this thing and yes, maybe you do have employees, maybe you have a lot going on revenue-wise or maybe you're even incredibly profitable. But if you're still the face of the business and you're still the one in the position that everything has to go through, it really is an expensive job and sometimes it's not a profitable job, which then just, raises a whole lot of other questions that I have to imagine go on in people's lives. But really being able to look clearly at your company and say, can this run without me? Is it repeatable? Is it scalable without me in the picture? Could you step away from your business for 4 weeks at a time, for 6 weeks at a time, and it not collapse? Would you still get new clients during that time? Would things still be running? And for most people, a large majority of business owners, that answer is no. And that's when I think taking that step back and, having a third party kind of like myself go in and look at a business from a perspective where we're not, emotionally connected to the business. A lot like going to a therapist, right? Like they see things very differently than we do. I can see somebody's business very differently that I'm not emotionally attached to and can be able to point out and have conversations about changes that can be made so the owner actually has more freedom. Because if we are starting a business, from the perspective of we either want more money or we want to help people. A lot of times it's both. But generally those are one of two reasons why people start their own businesses because they either need money or they want to help someone. But if they can't even help themselves and they can't create space for their own life and be able to go on vacation when they want to, or be able to make your kid's soccer game without being on your email or on a phone call or, trying to resolve something going on in the business, there's a lot more going on that can be solved and to focus on that work-life balance. And it's not always a balance and I don't really like that word. I don't know of a better word to call it, but yeah, the integration I think is more appropriate because some people the balance they really do like work more than maybe some of the things going on in their life. So it doesn't have to be balanced, but it does have to make sense.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'm actually working on a solo cast about work-life balance, and that's juggling the balls of work-life balance. It that really is to me all about just what's important to you, and then
Yeah.
the balance is what is important. So maybe
Hmm.
it is 75 work and 25 relationships and everything else, but just making sure that you're fulfilled and whatever that
Yeah.
may be. So,
Oh,
um,
absolutely. And I do think that it's important, when people talk about that to remind them that it is okay if your kids and your family are not your whole world. Maybe you've got something else going on, or maybe it's great the way you're able to balance it, but your outside life doesn't have to necessarily win the majority all of the time to still feel fulfilled and successful. I do think that beyond work, there is more, but not everyone has to feel that way.
Absolutely. And it's all about the season in life too.
Hmm.
When you're
Absolutely.
first starting out, young family getting started, you might just have to work 70, 80% of the time because you need to put food on the table or take on some overtime or some freelance work. And that's just where you're at. You're trying to buy your first house and you're just trying to get ahead, right?
Yeah. And that's definitely how this business started. It was me working 80 hours a week, doing this
Mm.
part-time, working my full-time job. I mean, we ran into, I feel like I've done every failure that you can do in business without actually closing. I mean, but failure in my personal life, like I had no boundaries. I had no balance at all, which is why I'm so passionate about it now because I know what that did to my marriage and I know what it did to my relationships outside that they started to disappear. And, things between my husband and I were horrible during the startup part of my business. But if I'd have known, then what I know today and how to create boundaries and that there are no such thing as accounting emergencies. Like no one needs an accounting email responded to at 10 o'clock at night. Like it just doesn't exist. And there's a difference between, again, having customer service and being able to serve the clients that are, paying you to be there, as well as also teaching your clients how to work with you and that you can have boundaries and that it's important for them to see it so that way they can put them in their own business as well.
I love it. I love it. Setting expectations.
Yeah, because
Good communication.
you teach your clients how to work with you just as
Yeah.
much as you teach your team how to work with clients, and you learn how to work with clients, but you're creating those boundaries not only again for yourself, but to show them that they can also have them. So it's a teaching moment on all sides of it.
Yeah. Coaching moment. And you just did a podcast about it.
Yeah,
So okay.
absolutely.
I listened to that one before we got on. So
It's a
good
big
segue.
deal. Yeah,
It
boundaries
is.
are important.
It is. Yeah. And I like that. Coaching moment. So
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
You have another business too. This diving.
I say I have two other businesses.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's, we don't have to go into detail on all of them, but
Yeah.
the diving one, I was kind of curious. So I kind of knew that you were a profit first master,
Hmm.
um,
Yes.
and, in the financial space and business coaching and stuff. But yeah, I was a little surprised by that one. So what is that about?
Yeah, I like to say that I an accountant with a side gig as a mermaid. So I think
Oh, okay.
being an entrepreneur, like a serial entrepreneur, is definitely something that is, in my soul, and I love creating. But I think I create things that I see are a need. And when I see them as a need for myself, I have to imagine I'm not the only person who has that need. So my kind of venture into the businesses that I've started have come out of things that I've wanted personally. So obviously, the consulting side of things makes a lot of sense. It's helping other business owners. And then finding balance for myself, finding something that I really enjoy and that I loved. And I took my first scuba diving class when we were going on a trip with friends. Several people were going to be diving, and I thought, oh, that sounds like fun. I'd like to do that. My husband is still on the fence. He does not like the water. He doesn't even like to snorkel. We have lots of very funny stories about that.
Yep.
But I found myself underwater and having my brain be quiet for the very first time in my entire life. It's the
Mm.
most peaceful place and thing that I have ever done. And when I popped up out of the pool for that very first time, I knew that I needed to dive for the rest of my life. And so did everyone else. Like I had never connected, finding something that just brought me so much peace before. And I thought, okay, great. How can I continue to do this and do more of it? And opening a dive shop in Kansas during the pandemic seemed like the perfect explanation of how I was going to be able to solve this going forward. So I partnered up and we opened the shop in the beginning or the end of 2021. And again, it was pandemic time, so we couldn't get any gear from overseas. Like it was a real challenge, but we were able to connect people with travel. And our dive shop is a little bit different. Like we were kind of bougie. Like that's a little bit of my personality, and that's okay. But so we tend to take like luxury type of trips and sell gear that's going to be higher end than other shops do. Like we're targeted at a very specific type of person and family who wants to go on the types of dive trips that we like to go on. So I'm able to connect again like a business and personal fun. It's all deductible, so that's great. But I'm also being able to share that experience with my clients or with other people about why I do it. So it's not so much like I wanted to go see really cool fish and pretty things underneath the ocean, which is incredible, but the peace and calm that it brings me. So maybe somebody doesn't want to go scuba diving, but they need to find something in their life that brings them that type of thing. So maybe it's meditation or bike riding or camping or fishing or whatever that thing is, and be able to lean into it as a business owner and know that you can step away from the job that you've created or your business and be able to find that sense of peace and re-energizing feeling that it brings to you so that you can take that energy back to your business and back to your team. So for me, starting a dive shop was really just an excuse for me to be able to dive more and to be able to feel that calm in my nervous system and really feel grounded when I'm underwater.
I did not know that about diving, and I'm big into meditation.
Yeah.
I have a meditation practice every morning, 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on the day, but definitely meditation throughout the day, different points in time. So yeah, I'm a big fan, but I was not aware of diving as potentially a really powerful meditation tool. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting to me.
It's great because, I mean, it's true grounding too. I mean, if you think about it, you're underwater, so you're
Mm,
connected with the environment, you're connected with the earth at
love
that point.
grounding. Oh yeah.
So you're grounded during that. They use scuba diving to treat a lot of PTSD in
Mm,
military personnel and veterans, that type of thing, because
okay.
it's the way I describe it, it's like being in, depending on if you're in warm water, I prefer diving in warm water, not cold water, but you're like in warm water with pressure. So it's almost like having a weighted blanket around you. So it's calming your nervous system the entire time that you're underneath water, as long as you're breathing properly and you're not panicking. And of course, there's people that are going to have different, maybe
Sure.
initial experiences if they're not familiar with it. But that grounded, calm, kind of pressure that is around you, like your whole nervous system just relaxes. And breathing is a very important part of diving. One, you have to keep doing it. It's the first rule of diving. But I will kind of look at my dive computer and I can see, when my heart is elevated, and I can see when I'm, breathing at a really calm, low level. So just like I practice breathing, when I'm in a cold plunge or in a sauna, just like through my meditative breathing, we're doing the same thing, but underwater, and my whole system just calms when I'm down there. So if you are somebody who's into meditation, I would certainly try like a try scuba class or something that's near you, since you're landlocked as well, and just see like what that feeling is. And like, but yeah, the calm and quiet in my brain is really what drove me to want to share that experience with other people.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of with your husband. I'm a little afraid of water, but I've tried some things. My wife's not a big fan either, so it might be tough for us to venture that way. But if I'm ever out in Kansas, I
I
will
was gonna
check you
say,
out. And
if you're ever at our pool, we have a shiver-free environment. It's 90 degrees, so it's a nice warm pool to be able to do that. But
yeah,
it definitely creates a calming in your nervous system. So again,
hmm
if you like camping or being outdoors, some people get that same calm from hiking up a mountain or,
yeah,
something else. So it's like find the experience that works best for you.
yeah, yeah. Sitting around the campfire, that's one of
Yeah.
the things it does for me, especially during COVID. That was my go-to practice.
Yeah, and that was actually often ours, was sitting out by a campfire. It tended to used to have a glass of wine or bourbon in my hand
I was just gonna,
while we were at it,
I was
but
just gonna mention that.
that has now changed too. So, like you mentioned kind of in the intro, is that I have embraced sobriety. So today is October 21st, so I'm almost to 18 months in that. And that has been something that also I think has been just eye-opening in my life. And the goal of feeling better is really like what inspired my third business, which is a wellness studio. So we have infrared saunas, cold plunges, IV therapy, that kind of thing. But it was as I had learned to meditate and learned to ground myself and kind of work into that sort of holistic well-being for my life, all of a sudden alcohol seemed like it felt very out of place in how it made me feel and what it was putting into my body. If you start looking at obviously like ingredients of alcohol and what they do to your cells and your system and just your sleep patterns and anything else, like I just want to feel really good in my life. Like I want to go to work and feel really good. I want to work with amazing clients. I want to just make my life a place where I enjoy it. And alcohol no longer fit that enjoyment arena. And being without it has been life changing in so many ways. Weight loss, feeling better, sleeping better, hormone balancing. I mean, I could name off 100 ways that alcohol has improved my life. And it was really hard to find one thing that it improved for me when I was doing it.
Wow. Congratulations to you. I know that's a tough thing for anybody. I know I've had my battles over the years with addiction and drugs and alcohol and things of that nature. I do enjoy a bourbon and cigar on occasion. And the one thing I'm very intentional about that in terms of moderation. In fact, I have a spreadsheet, I have a whole life optimization system. It's kind of geeky, but I track how many times I do my good habits and my bad
Hmm.
habits. And I had a goal. I was, creeping around the 3 to 4 times a week last year. And I said to myself, I do a life audit at the end of the year. I have, a whole year's worth of data. I'm like, okay, kind of in the same camp as you. Like, this just isn't working. I really doesn't feel, it feels out of place to me. And the obvious of, feeling like crap the next day. So I really did make some intentional changes this year and I've stuck to them two times a week. and even cutting back because the bourbon, you got to be careful. Most of it is 100 proof and that
Yeah.
can escalate very quickly. And there were a few
Hmm.
nights where I embarrassed myself and I'm at home drinking and I'm, stumbling into the house like this is ridiculous.
Hmm.
But it wasn't intentional, just sitting around the fire, having a good time. And, next thing you know, yeah, you're hurting, and
Yeah.
I'm not driving or anything. I'm responsible in that sense, but nonetheless, I had to make some shifts and it's ironic, just I see some parallels in a lot of ways, personal growth. I'm definitely huge into holistic mind, body, soul. Past 4 years during COVID, I've kind of started my journey when
Mhm.
it started with this program called Positive Intelligence, which was all about kind of
I've
building.
done that. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
Okay.
like sitting
So
here doing like little PQ reps
PQ,
like right now.
oh my gosh. I had no idea. Finally found
Yes.
some. Okay. So,
Positive intelligence, that was one of the things that started me down my path. A friend of mine, he's a doctor. He's actually is a kind of a partner in the other business that we have, but he knew I was really stressed out and that things had been going really poorly. He was going through a terrible divorce at the time, and sent me this thing, and he's like, I want you to listen to this, and I want you to join it and go through it. And I was like, oh, this sounds stupid. And I honestly didn't like the guy's voice, and like the whole thing just like was really off-putting. He's like, just stick to it and try it. And I will tell you that I will be in any sort of stressful situation now, and you'll see me just like rubbing my fingers together because that's the one that like gets me the most.
same here. Same
Or I'll
here.
play with like my ring or something. Like I will do something and it will calm my nervous system. And then all of a sudden, again, that's when I was feeling really good. It's like, well, what else can I keep doing that makes me feel good? But no, I think that everyone needs to go through positive intelligence. And I realize like maybe financially it's out of sorts for some people, but like it's amazing.
Oh, but so yeah, I didn't know we were going to go there, but
Yes.
fine. I'm like sitting here.
You're the
So
only other person I know that's done it, aside from the guy that told me about it.
I
So,
know. So this program, I mean, it was a New York Times bestseller, his
mhm.
book, Shirzad Shamin. And so many people, even coaches, don't know about it. I'm like, dude, why aren't you marketing this thing? Like, so I'm actually going to be a certified coach next year. That is one of my goals because I am
That's amazing.
all about it. So if he has me and I go through the application process, whatever, but that
Uh-huh.
is definitely a goal of mine. But it changed my life, Tracy. Absolutely. So I did it during COVID. I had a high performance coach reach out to me on LinkedIn. She just saw a post of mine that resonated with her, and her and I connected. And then I hired her to be my coach. And then one of the first things we did was take me through the positive intelligence program.
Hmm.
So she was certified and she is still certified in that. She took me and my colleague and a few other friends. So we had a pod that went through it during COVID and it was great. And then I continue to do the app and do my PQ reps throughout the day.
Yeah.
But it changed my life. For me, it was building a pause button. I talk a
Mm,
lot about this in my episodes, and I have a whole episode solo cast devoted to building a pause button. So I had a horrible temper and I struggled with patience my entire life from kid all the way through adulthood. And oh my gosh, now and my wife, she makes fun of me. She looks down, she's like, "Oh, you're doing a PQ rep." I'm like, "Yeah, babe, like I just need
yeah.
to, whatever you said or whatever's going on, just let me do my thing and I'll
Hmm.
give me a minute and I'll be good." But yeah, it's amazing how powerful our brains are and you can rewire those and you can build that mental muscle. I mean, like anything, it takes time. You got to do the
Hmm.
work. But oh my gosh, life changing. Like I can't imagine my life without going through that program, Tracy,
Yeah.
honestly. Like I will be on a mountain and I will praise Shirzad Shamin and his book and his program, Positive Intelligence, to the day I
Yeah.
die. It changed my life,
No,
bar none.
it's absolutely one of the greatest things ever because again, I have a very quick temper. I can say things just at the drop of a hat that I probably shouldn't, and it has gotten me to yeah, to stop and think and hear inside of my head. And again, that calm sort of peaceful place that you can get to through it and really stopping before you speak and moving forward to the next step. Like, yeah, it's been game changing in
Mm.
relationships. It's been game changing with team members or clients. Like I could just fly off the handle and like want to fire somebody or, just my patience was very, very thin. And when stress builds on that, and sometimes when alcohol goes on top of that,
Mm.
like you can start piecing that all together and go, wow, I really can yeah, rewire your brain and really rewire how you react to things. And that changes who you are. It changes who you want to be around. It changes the environments that you put yourself in. Like it's just life changing. And so, yes, I would encourage anyone listening to this who's ever considered it or not heard of it to read it and then to go through that program. It's amazing.
Yeah, at the very least, $29 for the book.
Yeah,
Hell, email me and I'll send you the book.
that's a,
That's how,
yeah,
honestly, how much I believe in it. Like, I will help you go through that program by at least buying you the book.
I think you being a coach for that is incredible. And I think you would be so good at it. Because again, you're like, just like in our conversations, we have a lot of similarities where we've kind
Mhm.
of talked about like, just being intentional and intentional with our spouses and things of that nature. And I think it would be so good for you to be a coach for that. And I really hope that you get accepted to that program and that goes forward for you because that'd be amazing. And just who you could connect with at the same time and help put through that. Be really
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that vote of confidence. And I mean, there's nothing better. I mean, I walked the walk. I went through it.
Yeah.
I did the work. Who else better to take somebody through the program that like literally had some issues and worked through them from this program?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big believer in it. So wow, this is
Oh, that's
super
so
exciting.
good.
I did not. There is somebody that knows about the program. I can't wait to tell my coach. She'll be so excited because we
Don't
were
you
just
feel
talking
like
about it.
sometimes when you talk to people about stuff like that or like you share it because like you're so excited about it like sometimes I think I'm like people look at me like I'm crazy or that I've come up with like all of these like found all of these methodologies or
Right.
holistic type of things or it's they're not easy buttons because there's a lot of work that goes behind
Oh
them. But
yeah.
like I want to scream it from the rooftops sometimes and then but it's like I feel like I'm pushing it on people or they're gonna think that I'm weird or whatever, which I probably am, and I'm okay with that. But I,
Oh
I
yeah.
would love to tell everyone that I meet about it. And I feel like I just keep it to myself because I'm like, nobody's ever heard of this. They're not gonna listen to it.
Yeah. Anytime you talk about meditation or rewiring your brain, people tend to, shut down. But it's real. Hey, we have two testimonies
It
right
is.
here. So it
Yeah.
is the real thing. We get no profit from it, at
We
least
wish we did, but
not
not
at
yet
this
yet.
point. But yeah, just one heck of a program. So that's so awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I
Yeah.
love hearing that other people have experienced it and have walked through it because again, it's not an easy program to stick to, but even just reading the book gives enough information for somebody to
Mm.
get the idea of what they can be doing for it,
Mhm.
even if they're not going through the entire program.
Absolutely. I'd
Yeah.
say, couple that with Atomic Habits. You got those two and you'll be set,
Yeah. Oh,
you
I
know?
love that. That's so good.
Yeah. So let's go back to you choosing sobriety for a moment. Was there a moment? Was there something? Did you have a real bad evening? Was there a moment where you're just like, oh man, I'm done. I'm out of here. Or, what was your
No,
process? Was this kind of a weaning off?
for me, it started out as kind of a weaning off. I had been overstressed and I'm over 40 as a female and of course like hormones and body change and all kinds of things as we age. I was really just unhappy with how I felt. I wasn't sleeping. I was overweight and just not enjoying how I felt. And again, if we go back to I always want to feel good and live a life that I feel good about myself, that does include my health and my appearance. And so I said, well, I'm going to just quit drinking for like 30 days and see what happens. I'd read a lot online and it said, you can lose weight by stopping drinking. So I thought, okay, great, let's do that. And so 30 days turned into 90 days because weight was starting to come off. I was starting to sleep better. I was feeling better. It was around the time of my birthday. And so I thought, well, I'll just not drink until my birthday and then we'll go out and we'll have champagne like always and it will be so much fun. Well, I got to my birthday and I thought, man, why would I ruin these last like 3 months? Like, I feel incredible. I should probably just keep going because weight was still falling off. Like, I was like, this is really good. And 6 months later, half a year into this, I was like, wow. I told people at that point, I was like, well, I'll restart someday. And I just don't know when it's going to be. But for right now, I feel amazing and we're just going to keep going. I had really started to kind of dive into finding really great non alcoholic options and diving into a whole world that I did not know existed in the, kind of in a space of cocktails and different things.
Hmm.
So I liked experimenting. So that was fun. I had an alternative when we'd go to football games. I would drink like Corona Zeros, which are by far the best non-alcoholic beer on the market. You would not know the difference.
I
In
haven't
fact, I
seen
could
that.
probably put one of the regular and one of the NA
You
in
wouldn't
front
even
of
know.
you. You would know the
That's
difference.
all in your
So
mind.
there was a lot of options that I had that I could still feel like I was partaking in the fun without mixing in alcohol into it. And when I got to about 8 months, I had lost a little over 50 pounds, and I knew
50?
it that, yeah, well, I've actually lost more. So that's kind of exciting. But I lost about
Oh,
50 pounds in 8 months.
my
And
gosh.
I knew at that point that I was never going to drink again. But I told people, because I wasn't quite ready to like admit that out loud, but I knew
Right.
for me that it was not going to happen. And I thought, well, if I'm this close to a year, like why not get to a year point just to say that you did it? And then,
Mm-hmm.
who knows, we'll decide from there. But I knew at that point that there was no going back. Like there was no way I was going to reverse my sleep or reverse the weight loss. Because it's not just booze, right? Like it's the charcuterie boards that go along with girls' wine night. It's the snacks at the tailgate that go along with beers. Like it's the compounded calories that are on top. It's not just alcohol. It's the anything could turn into happy hour for my husband and I. We will celebrate anything, right? Like if we've had a bad day at work, great, let's go out to dinner and have a glass of wine or a bourbon. Or if we've had a wonderful day and I signed a new client, great, let's go out and celebrate. Like there could be any reason to go out and drink and eat things that we wouldn't normally do, and that can escalate. So I got past my year mark. I knew I was not going back. But by this time, like my husband was my drinking buddy, right? So he has massively slowed down drinking. At this point, I think now that we're in October, I think it's been at least 6 or 8 months since he drank. My business partner just hit his year of not drinking. It started to escalate to the people around me. They're like, wow, Tracy's lost all this weight. She feels really great. She swears up and down by this thing, which is not drinking. Let's see how it goes. But it's also, it's proximity. If you're around people who aren't doing it, you're probably not going to be doing it. If you're around people who do it all the time, it's going to be really easy to fall into doing it. So now I've lost over 80 pounds because when you feel really good, you're not hungover, you want to get up and go work out, and you want to get up and go for a walk on the weekends, or you want to be, active, and you don't feel sluggish or hungover, or you're not planning your day around, oh, we're going to go to this party, or oh, we're going to go meet friends for drinks for lunch and something else. Like you just start doing other things. But the beginning of sobriety was really, really hard. I got a lot of judgment from people who are not necessarily friends any longer of mine.
Mm.
Really realized, kind of who's in it to want to hang out and have fun versus who actually cares about you for you. And having something else to do. I mean, because that's what we would plan our lives around. Like it was a lot of like football or sports watching, and drinking always came with it. And there was a point where I was like, I don't even know like what else I enjoy doing. I don't know what else I like, because we might have been going to a concert, but there was probably drinking involved. Like there was just so many things that seemed to be connected to it. And I would never have called myself, you know, addicted or an alcoholic or anything. But man, we were sure living a life that it was intertwined with about everything that we did. And now it has nothing to do with what I do on a daily basis. And I can be around people who are drinking, and I no longer, I don't feel weird about saying, oh, hey, I don't drink. It just is very natural and normal now. But at the beginning, it was definitely, you had to be intentional about it, because it was very easy to go, oh, well, I'll just start back up tomorrow, or, whatever. Going to conferences. I don't know how many you go to, but how many do you know of that don't have like happy hour events after all of the days breaks, and people feel really pressured into attending those and thinking that they need to, see and be seen. And if you're not drinking at them, you're not going to be included. Like there's a lot of people just that feel a lot of pressure from others to be the one drinking. And I've just let all of that go. And it feels so much better.
Wow. I absolutely love this. Wow, I did not expect all this today. Tracy, you started a movement. Like
I've,
literally, you
I'm,
started a group movement. That
yeah.
is so powerful, so inspiring.
And I hope to be able to actually start a movement for business owners. Like, so I've started a newsletter. It's called Lifepreneur Lounge, and it's where I talk about balance. And it's where I've really started to talk about sobriety. And I talk about it a lot on LinkedIn, and the messages that I get. I don't necessarily get the comments on the post itself,
Mhm.
but in my messages, I feel so much pressure to drink. I'm in an industry where it's expected. As part of my sales job, I have to take clients out. Like people are complaining that they can't stop drinking because it's expected at work. We have to
Mm.
change that narrative for people because there is so much stress and anxiety and other things that come along with that, that I want to make not drinking normalized in business and in doing business with other people. And I'm just hoping that being open and talking about it is something that will continue to pick up again, just with other professionals, and being that it's okay to not drink or to not have a conference based around wine dinners or whatever.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, no harm can come out of that, right? Only
No.
positive things can happen.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. I never really thought about the pressure, but yeah, it's absolutely there. And I'm sure there's tons of people. I feel like I'm hearing more and more people who started in, did dry January and are
Yeah.
continuing on. And it's interesting. I feel like I'm on my way there,
Hmm.
which I thought I would never say. Like I said, I have a very addictive personality. I've struggled with it for years. COVID, there wasn't nothing to do. So sitting around the fire, I mean, I went through so
Yeah.
many bottles of bourbon. And ironically, that's when I started my big transformation. That's when I met my high performance coach and went through positive intelligence. And actually, you'll appreciate this. I don't, maybe you have it. So I have the Aura ring. So that's my wedding ring, but it tracks a lot of things. I wanted to track my sleep,
Hmm.
and I can see it every single time I drink. All my
Yeah.
metrics,
What
all my,
happens to your HRV at when you drink at night?
yeah,
Plummets.
yeah,
Yeah, so
it's
I have my
crazy.
Garmin. This is what it's
Okay.
actually my dive computer also, but it tracks all my same things that your ring tracks. It's the
Hmm.
HRV, it's your sleep, it's
Yep.
everything. Like again, if it matters, you measure it, right?
Right.
And mine was the same way. My HRV would just, and my HRV is terrible anyhow. Like I still can't figure out how to get it up. It mine's always low, but it was so much worse when I was high stressed or drinking or anything else, and it's drastically different now.
Yeah.
And like it affects it. So
Right.
I think it's awesome. And I don't think that everyone has to embrace sobriety. I think eventually we're going to look at booze like we look at cigarettes. But I do think that being mindful, like what you're doing and saying, like, hey, I'm going to do this twice a week and here's how much I'm going to have, like,
Hmm.
that's still intentional.
Hmm.
And you're still making that choice that you know is best for you. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And it doesn't have to be, oh, I went 12 months and now I drank and now you're a failure. Like, the amount of time doesn't make any difference. It's that you're choosing to be healthier for your body and you're choosing to be healthier for your mental health and for your family. And the choices and the intentionality, I think, are the important part. It's not how many days you went, in between having a drink. Like, if I had one now, is it going to do anything to my body? No, I might not sleep well for a day or two, or, it's not going to kill me. But for me, I just know that there's no positive to doing it. Like, and I loved wine and bourbon, and like I was a connoisseur, and I still have an entire cellar full of wine down in my basement that I don't know what I'm gonna do with.
Hmm.
Like, I liked it. Like it tasted good. I enjoyed
Hmm.
it. I enjoyed the education around it. I liked knowing where it came from and the makers, and like I liked all of that stuff. But I'm still finding that I can learn all of those types of things about other stuff. So whether it's, de-alcoholized wine, there's a couple of excellent ones on the market, and I love learning about how they make it. And so it's just a shift in changing my thought process about what I want to learn about and, become educated about. That was just what we tacked on to the drinking side of things, but now I can do it, with something else.
Yeah. It's all about making those small shifts.
Yeah.
That's
Small
it.
shifts.
Big
Small shifts can
impact.
move mountains.
We talk about all the time on the show. That's my life coach. That's her motto or tagline. It's all about small shifts. Yeah, and it's ironic that for me the bourbon, the cigar is kind of meditation.
Mhm.
It's usually quiet time by myself, so it is a time when I can kind of reflect and slow down. In my mind, I don't know about you. It sounds like we're very similar, but being a serial entrepreneur and just being a business owner, like I'm just constantly, my mind's just going like 24/7. And for me, having a little break, and I'm not saying, alcohol is good. For me, that's how I use it. It
Yeah.
allows me to block the thoughts and just kind of wind down. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
the only thing for me at the time. But like I said, I could see that I'm on my way. I'm cutting back. And honestly, with this podcast show, I have to be on my A game every day.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person, I don't feel like hungover, but it affects my memory. And
Mhm.
I'm just consuming so much content. I'm learning so much each day and meeting new guests that I honestly don't have time for it. So I've
Mhm.
almost pushed it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
you're performing in a different way, as a podcast host is, than an athlete, but it's the same thing. Like you're
mm,
still preparing for the performance and you're still having to show up and be at your best because if you were sluggish and hungover, like your conversations aren't going to be, they're not going to be on point. They're not going to be as good as they could have been. They're not going to, you might have missed something that you really wanted to hit the mark on. And it can be like that in people's everyday lives. Like, how do you want to show up and experience, it might be the worst recorder concert ever that we have to go to watch a child perform, but going and being, having like wine in your cup, like there might be a bigger problem going on. Like we can't just block that out. Like we still need to experience even the bad things wholly, and we still need to be able to feel all of what's going on around us, even if it's not good and it's not enjoyable. Feeling and being in present in those moments is just as important as being able to go perform at our best or celebrate clearly and being able to remember important moments in our lives. And sometimes booze just is not going to help that.
right. Absolutely. Sorry, I got
Yeah.
hung up on the recorder choir.
The,
But
well, I was actually thinking because I remember going to like when my husband's kids were little and we would have to go to these awful recorder concerts or
oh
these like
yeah.
musical performances, and they're in third grade and they're adorable, but
Yeah.
not everybody else's kids is adorable in third grade and I didn't want to be there, and so we would go out and we'd have like margaritas beforehand. I can tell you there's many of those concerts that I probably don't remember as much of them as I should, and it's funny to kind of think about, but then when I really think about it, I'm like, shit, like that's not a memory that I would have wanted them to have. Like, oh, Dad and Tracy showed up and, they'd had four margaritas before they went to it. It's just not an ideal
Right.
situation, but that's what a lot of parents do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Noted. No. I do see a
Don't,
lot of parents holding their containers
yeah.
and don't know what's in them. I'm not judging. Thought maybe it was coffee, but maybe not.
Think there's like a mommy wine movement that
Okay.
just to be able to get through kind of the experience of parenting,
Mm,
and booze helps do
mm,
that, but really it would make you a better parent not having
yeah.
that and being able to experience feelings of frustration or joy. Again, it doesn't always have to be bad ones, in a really authentic way that alcohol will cloud any day, even if it's one drink versus, again, we're not talking about addiction here. It's just simply covering up those, oh, I just want to clear out a bad day. Well, that clearing out of a bad day with booze isn't actually going to help you clear your mind. And we all know that from an educated standpoint, but doing it is very different. And I think once people start to put that gap and that space in between themselves and alcohol, your life will change for the better every single time. And it may take a little bit to get there because it's a weird transition, but I don't know anybody who's ever quit drinking that said that they wouldn't have done it.
Right.
I've never met anyone who is sober who said that going back to drinking alcohol would improve their lives.
Right. No, that's a great point.
So, yeah, so that's
Wow.
why I kind of just preach it all the time now and
Yeah.
fully like share it because I just know how good it makes me feel. So, whether it's meditation or, talking about scuba diving or something else, like if we feel good, we want to share that with others. And so for me, I know that sobriety feels really, really good. And so I like to share it with other people in hopes to just inspire like one less drink or one day that didn't involve drinking. And if I can do that for somebody, and like I said, I know I've done it for the people around me, that's really the message that I want, business owners to understand is that you can cope with a lot more things when you don't mix that in top of it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be curious to see some research on a stat on how many business owners have challenges with alcohol. I bet you
well,
that
if
percentage
you
is
look
high.
if you look at the top performing ones, so take a Tony Robbins, take, name a handful of people, ask them if they drink, and they don't. It's not surprising to see actors and actresses and athletes, high performing individuals, high performing business owners come out and say that they don't drink,
Mm,
like, and that they're successful. Like there's a correlation for sure. You're not going to see some of the most impressive CEOs out drinking every night. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But so just taking after that too, like a lot of the mentors that I know and the people that I know who are incredibly successful in their industries are sober.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ironic.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that.
So no, it's just definitely, I feel like I found out about it late. Like I was late to the party, but yet at the same time, it's got to be, it's becoming a trend. Like sobriety is becoming trendy. And I will just stand by it that we will look at alcohol like we look at cigarettes. And I would say within the next 10 years,
Yeah.
maybe even sooner, but it will become a thing where people will start looking at it going like, what were we thinking?
Hmm. Yeah. I agree with you there. It's never too late. I
No,
mean, every
never too
every,
late.
every day is a new day. So
Yes.
you can't look back. Just look forward.
Yep.
Absolutely. So Tracy, you do a lot. My gosh. You have a third business now that I didn't know about. So three, is that all or is there more? Three?
Three businesses and then, just some like rental properties and just extra little things. So just
And a podcast.
and a podcast.
Do you still have
Yes.
the other Profit
Yep.
First? So
Yep.
two
Two podcasts and which I've just been recording those seasons. So those are getting ready to launch. So I'm excited to get those back out on the air. But I do a lot. And I think and this might be where we're going, but
Mhm.
how do you do so much, right?
Thank you. There's the softball or the golf ball. I
The
just
golf ball. Yeah, I was
teed
actually
you
just
up.
got back from a women's golf tournament in California last week, and it was incredible.
All that post, no drinking. Was that the
No
first
drink.
class? You went
Yeah,
first
yeah, first
class?
class, definitely no drinking, which is just, another thing to remember. Like it was like the second I would get on a plane, it's like, oh, I would get champagne, but that champagne was really shitty. There's
Yeah,
there's no
drinking
need
on a
for that.
plane, I think, is overrated for
No,
sure.
it's total waste.
Yeah.
But I'm not able to go to those golf tournaments. I'm not able to go diving or anything without my team.
Mm.
So a team in every single business and without them, without processes, without procedures, without proper training for that team, I wouldn't be able to have the space in my life that I do in order to do the things that I really enjoy. So I wouldn't have podcasting days or I wouldn't have golf days. And I golf several days a week or 5 days a week
Oh,
sometimes. And it's not necessarily the whole day. So I'm not like taking the whole day off, but I can take half a day off, whether it's the beginning part or the end. And I set my calendar intentionally. So I meet with clients on certain days during certain time frames. And I am intentional about when I go see my golf coach or want to go play, in ladies league or go to tournaments, that kind of thing. I think planning out and being intentional with my time has has served me as much as it is being intentional with how I work with clients or how I'm sober or, when you fit in a workout, whenever it is. Like, if it's important, you're going to schedule it. And my free time is important to me. And even today, before this podcast, I went and did a sauna session. And so I spent an hour of my time this morning. Well, I spent 1 hour in therapy and I spent 1 hour in the sauna. And those are always on my calendar. They're scheduled in, they're intentional, and I don't have to try to fit them in. And I think when we try to like fit things in and say, oh, well, I'll get to it. Oh, well, I'll get to it. You will never get to it. If it is not on my calendar or planned ahead of time, it's not going in. Like it's not going to get done.
right. Yeah, I see one key phrase or one theme that's carried throughout this whole episode, intentionality. You are
Yeah.
truly intentional about everything in your life. I am too. I track everything. My calendar, I've talked about in every episode, so I'm not going to talk about it here, but I've everything's in there. There's a block.
Yeah.
And don't make fun of me. I don't have like going to the restroom or things like that yet, but everything else in my life, it's in there. So I want to make sure the things that are important to me, it's in there. And if it's in
Yeah.
there, it's visible. And like James Clear says, if it's visible, it's going to happen. So yeah, I want to make sure that I get time for myself, for my kids, for my wife,
Mhm.
for all my relationships, or all the things that are important to me in my life. So
And I
I
think
hear
when
you.
people take the time and when I took the time to say, okay, I'm going to be intentional with my time. I'm going to do, calendar blogging or, whatever you want to call it. I was very intentional with my schedule. You start realizing when you start tracking your time, so it's maybe not even planning it, but if you just start paying attention to what you do and you start writing down like here's what I did today. you're going to find things that weren't valuable. You're going to find things that, man, I should have been doing something else during that time. Like those phone trackers, like that have so how much time you spend on your cell phone. I think people should look at those more often. They might find a lot of time in their life that they could have been doing something. And people tell me all the time, they're like, gosh, Tracy, you're so busy. You do so much. I'm like, I'm really not that busy. Like, I don't really have that much going on. Like, because I'm intentional, like I don't feel overwhelmed. Like I'm in bed by 9 o'clock every night. Like I'm not staying up till midnight. Like there is nothing that's that important in my life that I'm going to be awake at that time of the evening. Like I I choose when I do things, and I just don't like busyness is not a badge that I want to wear. And being intentional with space and time for downtime and rest and relaxation is just as important as time for productivity. Without space in my world, like without time that I just have for me, I can't be productive at work and I can't be productive with clients and have high energy. When you're on calls with clients for a half a day or a whole day, you need to be at 100 all of the time with them. Like that's what my clients deserve. They deserve me at my best. I can't do 10 clients back to back to back on phone calls or calls and have my energy still be there. So I have a few calls a day for a couple of days a week, but I can't have everybody just slammed into one day. I see a lot of calendar blocking like that. And I'm like, I would have zero energy if I peopled all day long. So I
Mm.
have to mix in
I
like
like that.
sauna time or a workout or a
Hmm.
walk around the block. Like if I don't put that stuff in there, like my energy is just sucked out. I'm not feeling good. And my clients feel that. Like they know if I'm not showing up at 110% for their call. Like they've been expecting and waiting for that time together. And if I can't show up the way that they deserve, I'm not doing anybody a service. So I think being intentional with my time, but again, as much intention as rest and relaxation as I am productivity.
Mm. Man, I love it. I love
Because
it.
I think even you and I had talked about one time, I think we talked about it on my podcast where I take my CEO retreats. So I'll go
Mm.
away for like a
Yeah.
week, a couple of times a year, just solo travel. And I go to spas and things like that because that's what energizes me. But again, it's intentional and it's blocked off and it's on my calendar. And my team knows that that's when I'm going to be gone. And my husband knows that that's what I'm doing when I'm gone. And it just, it it makes me a better person. It makes
Mm.
me come back and be able to put more energy into other people when I've put just as much energy into myself.
Amen. I love it. And I noted that that's been on the shelf since we talked and I've never made it happen, but I've told so many people about it, so maybe others have done it. But I still love the concept and plan to do it at some point. But wow, Tracy, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing everything. These are personal stories that you dug into, but like I said, it's a movement and it's powerful, and I just love it. And we have so many similarities. The fact that you went through positive intelligence that just made my day. This has been great. I know our listeners are going to get so much out of this. I know you've inspired somebody today. So if it's just one person, right? That's all we ask. That's why we do what we do. That's why I'm doing this show, just to inspire and help people be 1% better, just to make a little shift. That's all it takes. We're all capable of it. We just sometimes just need a little push, a little inspo. So
Yeah.
this has been great. Tracy, if somebody wants to follow you, learn more about you and your journey, or maybe even hire you for some business consultation, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way is to stop by my website, tracyjepson.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn. It is the one place of social media that you will always know is me and
Mm.
not my team managing. I love LinkedIn and I like connecting on there. So LinkedIn is definitely the place to find me and connect with me. But yes, take a visit to my website, tracyjepson.com. And you can find all of my podcasts on there, and the Lifepreneur Lounge newsletter is there as well. We have a couple of thousand subscribers to that newsletter. So I do think that the movement is growing. It grew significantly when I threw in sobriety as a talking point, and it's
Mm.
not all about that, but there's a lot in there of steps that people can take, and that has boomed since I made that sort of shift in that communication. So I would love to see people there.
Awesome. And interesting you called it lounge.
Yeah, I know it's play on words, right?
It's a dry
Yeah,
lounge.
dry lounge. But it's a
That's cool.
fun one because it's again,
Yeah,
it's where
no,
business owners are going and hanging out.
yeah,
And
I
I
think it's
think
smart.
it's that balance. It's that place where they're going to get business advice and tips, as well as tips about being sober and how it benefits their life. So again, it's a good balance inside of there as well.
Awesome. Speaking of balance, gosh, I wanted to ask about the flamingo. When are we going
Oh,
to see the flamingo?
so the flamingo's coming. I'm waiting for the website to get its final touches on the
Okay.
rebrand. But yeah, it was a really funny story that every picture that I would take, I looked like I was standing on one leg. And I have a whole like series of these photos
What?
that every time I would have my photo taken, it was one leg. And so a
That's
friend
so
and I
funny.
like would joke about it, about how I looked like a flamingo. And I started talking about how they have such grace and that balance is really important. And so I thought, you know what? How fun is this? I'm going to bring it into kind of the personal side of my branding. So there's a business logo, but it's going to be on all of the kind of fun, the balance side of things,
Mhm.
where it's a little less expected from a consultancy and a little bit just more of my fun personality. So you'll see more of the flamingo coming soon, but it really did. It started out as a hilarious joke, and now I see flamingos everywhere. So it's on the brain, and they're all over the place.
Oh
So
my
it's
gosh.
super fun, but had a lot of fun with the designers on getting that one right. So it was
Yeah,
good.
that's cool. That's always fun to go through. Well, I shouldn't say it's always fun, depending. I know I've been through a lot of rebrands, but yeah, we're a marketing company too. But doing
Yeah.
my brand was fun, and I got to see some of the inspiration for the rebrand for you for the flamingo. So it looks cool. I'm excited for it.
I think it's just unexpected, right? It's
Mhm.
unexpected in business where everything sometimes is so serious, especially around numbers and accounting. And while all of that is important, again, it is all about having balance in life. And I think
Mhm.
flamingos do it best.
Absolutely. But it's classy, it's professional, and it's got
Yeah,
some style to it, which,
it does. And the
that's
person
you.
who told me years ago that I wasn't allowed to have red in my brand, yeah, shouldn't have listened to that. I was like, that's like my favorite color. So
Oh,
it's
Target?
back. And
What about Target?
Peloton, I mean, there's a lot of red
Yeah.
brands that are
Yeah.
doing it
Red
pretty well.
definitely, I mean, it's a powerful color. It has
It
a
is
lot of different emotions to it. But so anyhow, great
funny.
stuff, Tracy. Thank you so much again for just spending time with us today, sharing everything, putting it all out there on the table. I am so happy for you, excited for you, and I can't wait for us to just continue this conversation, stay connected, and share things that we're learning. Because I'm all about the sauna. I bought a portable sauna last year for Christmas, and I have it in my gym. I love it. I just spent 15 minutes in it the other day. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just meditation. It's anyhow, I want to go down another
Yeah.
topic, but for another day, perhaps we have a podcast too. But this was great. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. You are on your way to growth, transformation, and joy. If you find this episode helpful, please like and share with your friends, and by all means, please leave us a review. You can also view the show notes and subscribe to the Bullet newsletter at toddbirch.com. Remember, real change takes time. Start small and watch that growth take shape.